Welcome to Session 3 of the Keep Your Love On series. I'm Danny Silk, author of the book, Keep Your Love On. In this session, I'll talk to you about the relationship between fear and love and why it's important that we understand the damage fear creates to our connection and our ability to manage ourselves. I want you to experience how powerful it is when we choose a partnership with the spirit of love. I just want to spend some more time talking about the intensity of this struggle that we all face. This is what blows up our relationships. I've heard that communication is the number one problem in relationships, and I would challenge that because I think that most commonly communication in relationships is excellent. I'm just communicating. I want distance. And so. If we can get at the heart of that choosing the right goal to begin with, that begins to change the dynamic immediately. As soon as I choose connection, I need a very different set of skills. This is a spiritual battle. This isn't just feelings or people enjoy each other. This is a spiritual battle, and there is a spirit of fear and there's a spirit of love. And we have to really decide who we're going to partner with. Because the internal culture that I carry in that partnership will create the reality around me. And so if I've grabbed onto fear and that is my mentor, if you will, then I'm going to create a culture of fear around me. And I will have relationships that are disconnected and distant over and over and over. And I eventually say things like, I don't really like people. People are dangerous. People are scary. People are just not my cup of tea. Well, no, that's not really. Really, what's happening is that anxiety that you've been hosting is creating that condition around you. Likewise, when you choose love, when you choose a partnership with a spirit of love, all of a sudden, I don't know why, but I can believe in people I don't even know. I can speak life. I can cheer people on who at one point were my enemies. What has given me this courage? What has given me this power? It is this eternal supply of life. It's the one who is building a family, one who's building a spiritual house. And that really has to do with paying attention to this spiritual battle, because you will end up in one of the camps. It's much better to choose the camp you want to be in. This idea of fear, the experience of fear, it changes the way you interpret your world. It changes the way you see things. A story that I heard years ago, I heard later that it was an urban legend, but I still like this story. That these two ladies are in Las Vegas, and while they're there, they're winning. They're like, oh my gosh, we're winning, And so they got their chips and their bucket of winnings, and they get in the elevator, and the elevator doors open, and there are 3 African-American men standing in this elevator. These ladies back into the elevator. They're standing there. And one of the men says, hit the floor. And both the ladies throw their buckets and land on their face. Now, apparently one of them was Eddie Murphy, and these were his 2 bodyguards. And these guys are laughing so hard because they cannot believe what just happened. And what just happened was this. These ladies carried a paradigm into that elevator with them. And as soon as a phrase was spoken, hit the floor, they interpret it through a lens of fear. And the very worst them they got lands on the floor. Apparently the ladies go to check out of the hotel and the bill has been paid. Their entire bill has been paid. And there's a card. Ladies, thanks for the laughs. Haven't laughed like that in a long time. It was signed Eddie Murphy. It's important that we understand this cruel taskmaster of fear. It's important that we understand that it has a life. It has a real goal. And that goal is to kill, steal, and destroy from your life. This is the essence of our enemy. And that is to take away from your life. So when you put your hope in fear, when you put your hope in that spirit, you have recruited into your life destruction. You've recruited into your marriage, into your family, into your most intimate relationships. Like sometimes you have a relational breakdown with one of your children, and they're scaring you. And the lens that you put on is the lens that says, I can control you. I will control you. This is the seduction of this spirit, and that is to believe that through intimidation and the threat of punishment, you can control other people. With our children, when they're younger, that illusion seems to work. You know, they're small, we can intimidate them. We are big. Rah! You wait. You wait until I'm taller. You wait until I'm more powerful than I am right now. I'll let you have it right now. But later, I'm going to let you have it. And then the reality, the truth of whether we control the people or not is staring us in the face. It's our teenager. Our teenager who we've convinced ourselves we can control is now about to put on display this myth. I don't care how scary you get. I'm not scared of you anymore. I'm not scared of what you can do. I'm not scared of what you can take away, because this is a battle of control, and I will fight back. And so, boom, we end up with this big disconnection. Fear fills that place, and now fear is running both of our paradigms. And fear is not bringing us together. Fear is driving us further and further apart. When I am trained in an environment where someone anxiously has been trying to control me, maybe since the time I'm very small, they've trained me in the belief that I am powerless because someone else can control me. See, if I believe this lie, if I believe the lie that I can control other people, I then believe I can control other people. And this is how it perpetuates through the generations, is I learned as a young child, I can be controlled. As I try to happen to my life, this is where victims get their schooling. This is where it happens, is I was trained that I can be controlled. So the bad guy feels very real to me because they're controlling me. They're making my life like this. I can't do anything about it. It's not true. The greatest gift that I can give my child is to not teach them and I can control them. Is to teach them to control themselves. I want you to learn to be powerful in my presence. I want you to feel powerful and respected and honored in our relationship. Even though you're this small, I want you to feel powerful when I'm in a relationship with you. I mean, think about it. God himself so values our freedom that in a perfect environment, in a place of paradise, he puts two choices. You have the choice to disobey. the choice to rebel, the choice to walk away from him. It's a perfect place. He set up a perfect environment. And he has given you the option to choose someone besides him. See, what makes the Garden of Eden a perfect place is there's a choice. That's what made it a free place. And so understanding that God has great value for your freedom that he created you to live in changes my paradigm of how I live when I have authority or when I have a relationship with other people. I realize there is a line. And this line is a place where my life stops and your life starts. Well, in the third section, we'll be talking about boundaries. And this is really where they begin. They begin in the reality that I have a limit to what I can control. I love you like crazy. You're my child. But you know what? My life stops right here, and your life starts. So the only thing that's really keeping us together is our connection. If we lose our connection, I really have no influence over how you do what you do with your life. This is tragic. This is the scariest thing in the world for a parent is I've lost my connection with you. I've lost my connection to your heart. I don't even know how I'm going to influence you for the future.
There were some great questions that actually were asked about how do I handle my kids who are on social media all the time? What do I do? And really changing the shift from how do I control and get the outcome that I want to how do I listen and find out really what's going on and how to get into the world and communicate with them so that there's a two-way flow of communication.
It can be applied to a lot of different areas. I've chosen to start with my most important relationship, which was with Kelly. And it's starting to trickle down to the kids and seeing how we can affect change in their lives. But also, there's a lot of application in the business arena as well, but I'm focusing at least initially on our relationship.
That's true.
Our relationship with the Lord has the same dynamic to it. He has no control over you. He doesn't want control over you. He never has. He's always wanted you to be free. He chooses you. What will you do? He minds his half of the relationship. What are you going to do? See, you are powerful, and therefore you are responsible. And this is the dynamic that we keep in mind when it comes to fear or love. It has to do with, I must protect the connection by managing me. I manage me, and therefore, I've done all that I can to set us up to be connected. I remember years ago, my middle child, my oldest son, Levi, he came to us one day. He had been in a private school, and he wanted to go to public school because he could play football. Private school was too small to have a football team. He's in 8th grade, wants to move on, freshman high school. He comes to us and he says, Mom, Dad, I want to go to public school, play football. And I looked at Sherry. I looked at Levi. I said, wow, look how scared your mother is. Son, because here's what's going on. In his private school, there's about 50 students in his junior high. He wants to go to a school that has 1,800. And I'm doing the math real quick. Let's see, how many poor choices are there in an environment with 1,800 teenagers? Wow. There's a lot of them. So we're trying to figure out really what to do. And so I've taught him to be powerful. I've taught him to think. I said, son, why would we be a genius to say yes to public school? Why would you be a genius to say yes? Because I will not break your heart. Oh, dang. Were you expecting that answer? I wasn't expecting that answer. That's like the perfect answer. Were you praying? Where did you get that answer? See, here's what he's doing. He's putting on display the whole point of our relationship. It's his job to manage him in all his freedoms, in all that's available to him. There are poor choices. There sure are. But it's his job to manage him, to protect us. So as we emphasize the us, as we emphasize the connection heart to heart, we both begin to manage what we can. And that is, we keep our love on. We protect the relationship by taking responsibility in the relationship. See, the whole point of this first section is that we understand this thing about connection. Connection drives fear away. Losing connection invites that powerful destructive force to come back. And so once we realize we have a disconnection, please register, this is the biggest problem in the world. The biggest problem in the world is to be disconnected. I do lots of teaching with parents. And I was in this public high school setting, and these kids, the parents in the room have freshmen who are being kicked out of school if something doesn't change. And so I'm talking to these parents, and I got them laughing, and I'm telling these stories, and there's this lady sitting in the front row, and she's not smiling, she's not laughing. And so I just start looking over her, like, okay, I'm not sure what your deal is there, lady, but I'm just going to go right around you. And somewhere in the middle of that session, she raises her hand. She says, all right, Mr. Know-It-All. I'm like, we're off to a great start, She says, my daughter is getting kicked out of high school. She won't do her homework. She fights with her brothers and sisters whenever they're in the room with her. She fights with me 5 times a day. She is smoking pot. She is sleeping with her boyfriend. She's sneaking out of the house at night. What do you do about that? And now I realize, this lady did not come here to be entertained. This lady is hurting. This lady needs some help. And so I said to her, talk to me about your connection with your daughter. How is your heart-to-heart connection with your daughter? And she looked at me like I rolled up a newspaper and swatted her in the nose. She was like, because she thought I was going to give her some, here's what you do. You do this, you do this, you do that. I did it. Didn't work. That's my connection with my daughter. And then pretty soon, the emotion starts to well up because now she's thinking about something she hasn't thought about for a long time. And that's the love they are not experiencing. Now here comes the tears. Here comes the tears, and she says, we don't have a connection. We are scared to death of each other. I said, right. I said, that is the biggest problem in the world. If you don't solve that problem, I really don't know what you're going to do about all that other stuff. And so we talked about love languages. We talked about cleaning up the mess. We talked about all kinds of stuff. She goes home. She comes back the next week. Every time I start with testimonies, like, okay, what happened last week? What worked? What didn't work? Let's let me help you. Her hand shoots up. It's a miracle. I said, what's a miracle? She goes, my daughter and I only fought 5 times last week. I'm thinking, wow, that'd be a rough week at my house. But we're down from 35, right? I said, well, what happened? She says, well, I went home, I cleaned up my mess with my daughter. I apologized for being a control freak and trying to scare her and, punish her for everything she did. And I told her I realized we were disconnected, and I told her I wanted to be connected. And then we talked about her love language, and we're about disconnected right now, but it's awesome. I said, well, fantastic. So next week comes, and next week this girl looks like she's about 14. She's walking about 10 paces behind. The mom sits down. The girl goes up and sits in the back of the room. So sits up there on this kind of a theater kind of room, and she's talking, or she's just sitting there watching. I'm talking. So I was a little more animated that day. I'm trying to get her to laugh, and she's cracking up because she has come to see what we have done to her mother. What did you do to my mother? This is a different woman who's at my house. And then by the time we got to the 6th class, the last class, she says, she comes in, she sits down, the daughter sits next to her, and the 2 siblings sit next to the daughter. They're sitting there in the front row. And I have this, okay, what's going on? This is our last class. You got any more questions? I'm not going to be back for a year, so come on, ask any questions you got. No questions. Oh, come on, people. This is not the week to get shy. And this lady raises her hand. She says, I don't know about anybody else, but our house is full of peace. And the rest of the room is shaking their head. Like, yeah. See, what happens when you increase the love and you protect that connection, the fear reduces, and you have an opportunity for heaven to come to earth.
The notion of not controlling other people, not having goals for other people, but just focusing on the things I can control has been very powerful with raising kids. I wish I had gotten Danny's advice earlier in my life. I think it would have been transformational in terms of how we raise kids. And like some of my business partners, understanding that if I get the relationship right, that the problems will take care of themselves as opposed to vice versa. So it's actually pretty significant in a lot of dimensions.
Ask yourself this simple question. Do I believe I can control other people? Control leads me to behave in a way that increases anxiety between me and the person I'm trying to connect with. I'd like you to take some time and ask yourself, what can I do to better control me? What can I do to protect our connection when I really do feel hurt or afraid? Remember, keep your love on.